Okay, let's get right into it. We're talking about one of the most ambitious engineering projects on the entire planet, and it's happening in a place you would absolutely never expect. A project that is literally trying to defy the desert itself. So, when you think of Saudi Arabia, what comes to mind? Probably oil, right? Maybe these massive, futuristic cities just rising out of the sand. But the one thing that truly defines the landscape is what's not there: water. Okay, now hold that image in your head. And imagine that same kingdom deciding, you know what? We're just going to build our own rivers. I'm not talking about some little canal here. We're talking about a colossal, underground network of pipes designed to act as a man-made river system on a scale that's, well, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. Which, of course, brings up the obvious, almost unbelievable question, right? How? In a country famous for sand and sun, where on earth do you get the water to fill a river? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. But before we get to the how, you really have to understand the why. And the why all starts with this massive paradox that's at the very heart of the nation. Just let that sink in for a moment. Saudi Arabia is the biggest country in the world that has zero, not one single permanent natural river. That simple, shocking fact has defined everything for them and has always been their greatest vulnerability. There's this analogy that captures the situation perfectly. It's like having a palace made of solid gold, but you only have 2 sips of water to drink. You see, all the money in the world can't just magically create a resource that isn't there, and that harsh reality has fueled a desperate, decades-long hunt for a solution. And for a while, they really thought they'd found the answer. A kind of secret stash of water buried deep, deep underground. But it turns out, relying on that solution was a massive, almost catastrophic mistake. And here's the critical point. This fossil water wasn't like a lake that just gets refilled by rain. No, this was a one-and-done resource, just like oil. Think of it like a savings account that took eons to build up, and they started draining it very, very fast. You see, it all started with a really well-intentioned goal back in the 70s. They wanted to achieve food security, to grow their own wheat right there in the desert. But to do that, they had to start pumping out that ancient water at a completely unsustainable rate. And this chart, wow, it really tells the whole story, doesn't it? That huge 85% slice, that's almost all agriculture. That's the wheat. A single policy decision was literally sucking the country's future dry. They quickly realized they were on a collision course with disaster. So, facing this crisis, they had to pivot hard. And the solution they pivoted to was so audacious, so out there, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction. The new plan was simple. If you don't have a river, you build one. Okay, so get this. The total planned length for this network of giant pipes is 12,000 kilometers. To put that into perspective for you, that is more than twice the length of the actual Nile River. If you were to lay these pipes end to end, they'd stretch almost a third of the way around the entire planet. It's just staggering. And the amount of water? The target is a mind-boggling 9.4 million cubic meters of fresh water every single day. That is enough to fill nearly 4,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools, and then do it all over again the next day and the day after that. And this number illustrates the hidden cost of the miracle. See, moving all that water, often pushing it uphill into the mountains, takes an immense amount of power. The pumping stations alone are expected to consume almost a tenth of the entire country's electricity supply. So how in the world is any of this possible? How do you fill a man-made river in the middle of a desert? Well, you turn to the one source of water that is practically infinite: the sea. Right. The headwaters of this new artificial river aren't some mountain spring. They're the vast, salty waters of the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. The whole project, the whole miracle, hinges on the technology of desalination. So, they basically use 2 main methods to get the salt out. The first one is a super sophisticated way of boiling water. You heat the seawater in stages, collect the fresh steam, and you leave all the salt behind. The second method, reverse osmosis, is, well, it's pretty elegant. It uses incredible pressure to force seawater through a filter so fine that only pure water molecules can get through. It's amazing technology. But creating this much fresh water, this man-made miracle, it doesn't come for free. It has a serious and often invisible consequence that threatens the very same seas that are providing the water in the first place.
Just think about it for a second. When you take all the salt and other stuff out of billions of liters of seawater, what are you left with? For every liter of fresh water you make, something pretty nasty is left behind.
Take a look at this number, 329,000 tons. That is the estimated weight of the waste product they generate every single day. To give you some scale, a blue whale weighs about 200 tons. This is like creating the weight of over 1,600 blue whales daily.
This waste is a super salty, toxic sludge called brine, and it's just dumped right back into the sea. This makes the ocean water hotter and way, way saltier than it should be, which creates these dead zones, suffocating coral reefs and other marine life. The irony is, in the process of making the desert green, they're risking the creation of underwater deserts. But the story doesn't end there, because true innovation isn't just about solving your first problem. It's about solving the new problems that your solution creates. And now, Saudi Arabia is focusing on that brine.
So instead of just dumping this toxic stuff, they're exploring ways to actually transform it. Step 1 is mitigation, using special diffusers to spread the brine out so it does less immediate damage. But step 2, that's the real game changer. They're developing something called brine mining, literally figuring out how to extract valuable resources like magnesium and potassium right from the sludge, turning a dangerous waste product into another source of wealth. So what's the final takeaway here? This artificial river is without a doubt a breathtaking monument to human ingenuity. It's a statement that technology can challenge the most fundamental limits of geography. But it's also a powerful, real-time lesson that for every action, there's a reaction. It's a reminder of nature's unyielding laws of cause and effect, and that sometimes solving one problem just means creating a new one you have to solve next.